universe? Welcome to Pickathon Podcast, Episode 5. Today, we're going to be talking to the amazing Joe Gardner from a band that I love called the Kernel. One of the best country records of this year for me, and I'm a pretty serious fan of the world of country music, along with everything else. And I should introduce myself. I'm the founder of the Pickathon Music Festival. This is a podcast about discovery, trying to fall in love every episode all over again with something. And we're going to do it all over again today. So wish us good luck. So this idea of the Kernel, one of the things that really ties, I think, his music to Pickathon is a lot of people think of his music as anti-country, or I've heard that name. And it's a weird name. It's like a catch-all name, but it's applicable in a lot of ways. I instantly kind of thought of our experience. Just this week, there was an article in a local magazine here called the Portland Mercury. It's an arts magazine, comes out once a quarter. And it's, the theme of it is say something nice. And it's ... about Portland. Portland's been pretty beat up. It's a very resilient town. It's full of weirdos and kind of weird, deep subcultures of, I doesn't care what you're into. It's a resilient place. We just have been through a lot of things. And so in this art, this whole theme is just let's say some nice things about what's going on and just kind of get back to normal or thoughts about, out of this kind of real weird cycle. And in that, let's say something nice about the local music scene. Pickathon's in there. And Jenny Moore, she's an awesome writer. She wrote something that I thought was really awesome. But the description of us kind of started in 1999. Pickathon is known as the anti-festival, eliminating all of the things about music festivals that are unpleasant and bad, like litter, waste, price gouging concessions. So that kind of sets it. And so here, we're known as the anti-festival. And I really thought about this, what is that? It's kind of okay, we're not a commercial home run. We're not aiming down the middle at this formula. It's not hard to picture what that formula is. You just need to replicate the big boys. That there's a very simple formula here. If you've got the money and you want to scale and you want to do all that, so why the hell would you be anti anything? What is that? And for me and for the people in the community personally, it's just okay, it starts with passion. It's I just want to do something I really want to do. And then it kind of gets into maybe I want to make money a little bit. I want to survive, but I don't want to do this. I can't do that for my whole life. I just can't be in this job. So I call that kind of sustainability. You got to love what you do. You got to be able to do it for a long time if you really care about what you think you're trying to do. And then it's got to be, and a part of that is it's got to be special. It's got to have that reason that it sucks people in. Why, what is it about it that makes it that's interesting to you that you think will be interesting to other people? And for us, there's a bunch of things, and eliminating waste and price gouging, but it's not something I recommend for the light of heart, because it's a long journey and you can get to this kind of pinnacle where it's a badge of honor, and we're there. We kind of play that on TV. I like to say we look like the cool anti-festival. We're still building and trying to get our place, because there's so many things that don't make sense about what we do in our case, such as, hey, do you want to go to a music festival that you've never heard of anybody? Probably, unless you're a fan of a certain scenes. That's not a fair statement. Music fans know a lot of our bands, but in general, we are kind of the essence of music scenes, which leads us to kind of not caring so much about draw. We're way more focused on what is moving the world today in dub or bluegrass or heavy metal or country. And that's what we get passionate and feel sustainable. We can do it. We can say it with a straight face. That's what we do. But it leads you to a really awkward place. You don't know any of these artists, but with kind of history, many of these artists end up playing the Moda Center. We had Billy Strings when he was nobody. He had 10 followers or something. And, we just knew him through our music kind of universe and brought him. He blew up. War on Drugs. Just there's an endless list. We won't go into today. In the country world, Sturgill played multiple times and came as a band called Sunday Valley before he was even known as Sturgill Simpson. Shaky Graves, Coulter Wall, Margot. So a lot in that kind of anti-country. But for us, it's more than lineup. It's just everything we do. So we don't have a lot of people. we've got space for 25, 30,000 if you wanted to make it a normal festival. We put 5. That seems dumb, right? But it's actually amazing. So it's like for us, it goes back to that sustainable. That's something I want to do. I like to be a music fan. I like it to be kind of intimate in a way that the artists feel, and these are the people that are really into music. The artists can have like this incredible experience of being with these fans, and it's just not like that place you just want to get out of as quickly as you just saw the main band. You're over. Also, just we build way too much stuff. Like we got like a huge site and we have 7 stages. We have 5,000 people and we have 7 stages. And it's because we just can't help ourselves. These are like, we just want every place to be like this incredible fantasy experience. Rock and roll barn, chill, interview barn, the Lucky Barn, all these outdoor spaces, the wood stage. We suck in way too many volunteers and people that are our crew. We almost have a 1-to-1 ratio, which is, it should be like a 10%. You should have like the bare minimum, these professional people that are really hardcore and they're going to run it tight. And we're a small city, but to kind of make it kind of big rock candy mountain, as we like to say, Lemonade Springs, all that fun stuff, you got to have a lot of people because it just got to be kind of smooth and not rough. And that doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense to us. Like we want to build all this stuff. We hire like a whole university grad program to build one of our stages. It's way too many people. It should just be a pop-up square stage. But no, last year it was made out of 250 electrical spools from the electric company. We built them 30 feet tall and lit them all up. And it was awesome, but it took an army to do it. And that doesn't make sense in like the festival world in a lot of ways, unless you're ginormous and you can just spend all the money you want. But again, you're back to having like 200,000 people. I don't go so far, but it's like corporate, we're not really into like labeling everything corporate. Banners. There's no vinyl banners at all at the Pickathon. It's gross. It's not fun to take a look around this beautiful space and just have it all, just everything be gross in terms of like the feel and the design. We don't charge a lot for beer. Like $20 beers is like a lot of money. We sell like $6 pints of like fancy beer, and food's not expensive. It just doesn't make sense. We don't sell water. Like, who in the world thought it was a good idea to like have a hot festival and then you have to buy water? That's so dumb. All of these things are like common sense to us. Like, we wouldn't do that because it's stupid in our brains, but we're kind of twisting it. Like, okay, this is back to like the passion, the special, the sustainability. That's more important to us. And we're going to figure a way how to be successful. Like, we're not trying to not be successful. We're just trying to be successful on these terms. Like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. If I have to do another job, I might just do something else. I'm not really sure I really want to like do it just to kind of scale it and be like every other festival. Like it's kind of has to be personal. And now we're this huge world that all of these things attract a lot of people that are also into the passion, the sustainability, and special. And I won't go any further in this, but I'll just kind of like pose a question. I was thinking about this. Okay, it's been like 24 years or whatever, 1999. Would we do it differently? Okay, you've been through the anti-label. You're playing it on TV. You seem successful. Would you take it back because it's hard or whatever? No, I wouldn't. And I don't think anybody who goes to the festival was involved. We wouldn't. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this next year if our mission wasn't like the best music, period. And we didn't care about what that draw is. We're like, we're going to bring this to the people. These people are, going to benefit. We couldn't do it. So we're going to find out, though, like if that is a unique, weird position of ours. And I want to talk a little about this and a lot more with my guest, Joe Gardner.
Well, I've been moved in a week this Thursday, but I haven't slept too great. My old blinds don't fit down the windows, and I'm baking shy of 8. Well, I sweat to bed, my friend, because the rent is cheap as hell at the old Taco Bell.
Welcome.
Howdy.
How you doing?
I'm hanging right in there, doing fine. Everything's moving along pretty nice. The weather's getting nicer, so it's nice to spend time outside. So yeah, everything's good.
Where are you at? Where are you at right now?
I'm in Jackson, Tennessee, at my home, my lovely domicile.
Is that close to Nashville? Is that close?
It's an hour from Memphis and 2 hours from Nashville.
Okay.
So kind of in between, but closer, a little closer to Memphis.
I'm actually originally from Kentucky,
Oh, yeah.
like northern Kentucky by Fort Mitchell.
Okay.
If you ever pass that water tower, it says Florence, y'all.
Florence, y'all. Okay, I think I have seen that actually. That's you?
Yep.
That's your people?
I'm like a mile from there. I'm like a mile and a
Okay.
2 miles from Covington. And, I was there, so now I'm in Portland. But I grew up there. Went to University of Kentucky.
Oh, right.
Lived in Chapel Hill. So I learned I played the mandolin. Learned that down in Durham area. That was such a beautiful spot.
It's all mandolin and basketball.
It's all mandolin and basketball, and barbecue.
Of
Don't
course,
forget
well,
barbecue.
The whole area is smitten with that stuff.
So the Kernel, this is like an incredible band, and I introduced you a little bit. I wanted to say I am a huge fan. Like
Thank
from
you.
the minute I put that record on, it has this kind of gravity of just, it doesn't get boring, and you're never in the same style. And it seems really like one big moment to listen to. And that's not very often a lot of records can pull off. They tend to stay in a style and it gets kind of ruddy or something in a way, or there's just not every song's a keeper, but every song's a keeper on your record. It's just incredible.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to make a record. I think a lot of people think that when you go into a studio, you get your instruments out, you play in front of microphones, and you got a record, and that's just what happens every time. But there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of unseen stuff that there are so many ways to approach the studio, and that's what's fun about it.
Yeah.
About making records in particular.
And I can tell your history kind of feeds a lot into this. So I'm going to give a little intro. You grew up around this music in a very significant way. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, my dad played at the Grand Ole Opry for 28 years.
Dang.
So he was 40 when I was born. So he was pretty much done with a lot of the road stuff by then. He still would do little things, but every weekend he played the Opry though, with Del Reeves.
Were you there? Did you go down there?
Oh,
Did you hang out?
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
Amazing. Because so the backstage at the Grand Ole Opry House, the new Opry, not the Ryman, but the Opry House, it's kind of a horseshoe backstage, and it's not big, but every time we'd go, I met my favorite baseball players back there, actors.
Who did you meet?
Okay, so I'm a big Braves guy.
Okay.
Because I have a twin brother, and my mother's family's Iowa and Illinois, around that area. So they're all Cubs people, but my dad's Georgia. So we split it. We have a twin brother and we split. I've always been Braves. And we met Javi Lopez and Ryan Klesko in the mid 90s, when they were at their height. And Javi Lopez was my favorite player at the time. I love the way he swung the bat.
That's awesome. And what actors did you meet?
Oh
back
man, there was somebody back there all the time. It's a constant thing, I mean, I can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more baseball people like Tommy Lasorda. That's kind of fun. Going as a kid, I haven't been since I was, probably in high school. And so a lot of stuff I remember.
Are you like? Do you get to go there still? Is there still some like continue? Do they don't honor like, hey?
I've never really tried.
No,
I never really tried. It feels a little icky. But I've always hoped to get invited or squeak in. I've played the Ryman, playing bass with people, so that was cool. But I've never been on the stage at the Opry House. But I'd like to go backstage too again. That'd be fun.
So I hear a lot of influences in your music. I'm just curious if you got to see any of those folks at the Grand Ole Opry too, like Chris Christopherson or no. I mean, actually, I think in that far back, I'm just wondering, one of the things I read and thinking about your music is, I don't know if it was an interview or you said it, but it's, country music's kind of been always moved forward by the outsiders, right? And the people that weren't quite fitting in, right? In whether it's, modern day, like, Sturgill, but, John Hartford has a huge, like, influence for me.
Me too.
And Tom T. Hall, Roger Miller, like all these people were just kind of out of the box. They kind of fit in eventually once they got adopted, but they weren't really the first. They weren't like going up the middle, right, of what everyone was doing.
Yeah, that's what I love about music in general is that the way I see it, the music business is sort of like a train that's rolling. There's only so many seats on it, you know? And so, but there's a lot of people that don't want a seat on it, you know, on the business. They're doing it for other reasons, or they're just not quite there, you know? And so there's a lot of other reasons to do, just like the studio, a lot of other reasons to do music. It's not about just trying to win the award and stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And that's why I've always loved the underground, just in general. That's the thing that holds everything else up. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the reality of music in our time and in space, you know? So,
yeah. I mean, you don't purposely kind of go at something trying to be different or the anti, right? Like, just like you get those labels because you're doing what you like. Is that your experience too?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you just sort of, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to answer the question. I don't know. It's, you sort of just do what you want to do. And, you know, if it sometimes it catches and sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't really affect. I mean, eventually it affects you. You get hungry, you know, and you're like, all right, well, it's time to go. And
I need to sleep. I need a place to sleep.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's an extension of you, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, when I listen to your latest record, the Listen to the Blood, it's, you know, there's so many styles on there. I'm just like curious, like, how did you approach writing that record? What was your like idea with that record?
Well, it's a lot of things converging at the same time. And also when you make a record, there's just a lot that, you know, comes to a head and you sort of start corralling it. And then you get to the actual making of it. And then there's variables there that you don't really know what's going to happen. But I just try to take the songs that interest me the most that I have. And then putting them together is kind of a magical, fun little process, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't really co-write. So I only write so many songs a year, you know? So there's only so many to go through or over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it takes to make a record, you know? So I just always try to take what I have and see what's there and see if it speaks to me, you know? And
yeah, I mean, I hear this song Green Green Sky for me. Like I have a very super soft spot for kind of trucker music.
Oh yeah.
Like I think I miss it. I don't hear a lot of it. There's not a lot. It's just not something.
There's no market.
Oh my God. It's so good though. It's like, it's the ultimate like hangout party music, right? You just put that on. And I mean, was there a style there? Was there an actual artist? Was there a song? Was there an inspiration? And it kind of gets you into that world?
Well, Dale was big trucker music.
Was he?
I mean, you know, oh yeah. Like, you know, Girl on the Billboard, and Looking at the World Through a Windshield, you know, a lot of his biggest hits were that's straight trucker stuff. You know, he's on a lot of trucker compilations. And so that I'll always like that side of country music that made you kind of move around and had a lot of fast, you know, words spitting at you. And
and
I just love the feel of it.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. I love that style, and it's fun to write with that kind of thing too. And for me, it is.
There was a band out of Austin called the Hacienda Brothers a while ago, played at Pickathon, and they had an offshoot band called the Stone River Boys, who was one of the greatest trucking country bands, you know,
really?
I've ever heard. And they didn't last very long. They kind of were just around for a while, but
cool.
I love that style. And, you know, other styles on there too, for me, are the kind of the talking country, the Wrong Turn to Tupelo. Is that kind of like, where did the ideas for that song come from?
Well, that song, funny enough, I was going down to Muscle Shoals, where I made my records down in Florence, Alabama, and I was heading down there to mix light country. And so so this has been several years ago that I've had that song, but I was driving down there and I lost track of where I was going, just daydreaming or something, and I went the wrong way, wound up in Tupelo. So it takes me 2 hours to get to Muscle Shoals. So I got there to Tupelo and realized I had 2 more hours. So I was late. And so I said, man, I was mad, you know, I just annoyed at myself, you know, and then I thought, well, I'm just going to write down everything I see in this 2 hour drive in order, you know. So that's how I wrote it. I was heading to Alabama to see a friend, you know, and I lost miss a turn or whatever. And then I saw these trees that they were all down from a tornado. And and then the burial mounds, and it's a pretty drive down Natchez Trace Parkway, which I don't know if you've ever been on Natchez Trace Parkway, but next time you're down south around Tennessee, around Nashville or something, just look it up and drive on it. They only let you go 55 in there.
Really?
It's like a state park kind of thing. That you can't hunt, you can't do anything. It's just protected, and you have to go slow, and it's beautiful, and it's all like sort of stationed around important, interesting things. So a lot of places to pull off and learn about history and rocks and stuff. It's cool.
It's also like super biodiverse there. It's actually one of the weird things people don't know, right? About that part of Tennessee all the way up. Kind of, there's this place in Kentucky up by Lexington called the Red River Gorge.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that. But that whole stretch there is like literally one of the most biodiverse places in the world.
Yeah, there are rivers down there near where I grew up that are some of the most diverse rivers we have.
Oh yeah,
like the
so
Duck
cool.
River. Yeah.
Oh, and I never been there. No, I never been there. I spent some time in Knoxville. We used to go there quite often because it wasn't that far, straight down 75, right? But I never got to spend any time over there. That's cool. What's the local music scene like? What was your local music scene kind of growing up there?
Oh man, I mean, it was different than even Nashville. I mean, I basically grew up 45 minutes from southwest of Nashville, so Middle Tennessee, and Hickman County is the county I grew up in. But for us as kids, I mean, Nashville was a small town. There wasn't a lot going on, in the 80s and stuff. And so most of the music that I heard was my dad going like playing barbecues and stuff. He'd like sit in with a band, but all these guys played the Opry, and they're just like passing around a jug of moonshine, slugging beer, and singing gospel songs, and just like at the top of their lungs, and just the best music you've ever heard. It's like going to a juke joint or something. It's like, these people aren't trying to be on American Idol, but they're, you go away from those kind of experiences saying, I don't think I've ever heard anything better than that ever. And like, who was that guy? We don't even know who these people were, I mean, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff, they would, we'd cook a whole calf and stuff and have a big throwdown,
That's so
a
awesome.
lot of funny memories from being a kid, being around that too. Just country stuff, man,
Yeah. And I mean, what was your first instrument?
I didn't play guitar till I was maybe 17.
So did you play anything else or before that?
No, when we were kids, my dad said, Joe, I want to teach you banjo, and Josh, I want to teach you fiddle. And one day we were playing, and we came and jumped on the bed and broke the fiddle neck. And he said, nope, we're done. He never showed us anything.
No way.
That was the last day of our lessons.
Really?
Yeah, so that's kind of guy my dad was.
He was, it's like Southern kind of like black and white stuff.
Very principled, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I totally know it.
Yeah.
You got a guitar at 17. Who did you play with? Did you play like just by yourself, or did you?
Well, I started playing because I was really into when I was like a junior and senior in high school. I was really into 50s music. Something about it I had this one tape, and it had like Marty Robbins and Wilbert Harrison and Buddy Holly, of course, and it had all these songs on it. It were like the greatest hits from 55 to 59. And I just fell in love with that tape, and it sent me on this whole thing, and I got obsessed with Buddy Holly. It's all I listened to.
Too. I love
and so the first song, I said, I want to play that. It made me want to play guitar, and my dad played guitar, but I never really thought about doing it, And so I said, can you teach me how to play Peggy Sue? And then and he goes, there you go practice. I mean, and that's kind of how I tell kids, because I've taught, some kids, like play guitar chords and stuff. And that's what I do. I go, it's like, all right, here's 3 chords. You see that? Take a picture of it or whatever. Now come see me in 6 months and we'll see if you quit or not. That's kind of how it works.
Some people make it through the fire. It's like getting to the top of the mountain on skis. Like, okay, you want to learn to ski? Go.
Yeah, that's a good example. I've been skiing once and I was like, I'm good.
You didn't make it past.
I learned on the first day.
There you go. That's awesome. And so you were like playing Buddy Holly, kind of like, did you connect with people though, like locally, or was it, where did you start to become something more?
Well, right after that, I had my very first, I wasn't raised in church, but I had a church experience. And so here I was, a new convert to the Southern Baptist Church, very small, probably, 30 people, 40 people, small, in Pinewood, where I grew up, Pinewood, Tennessee. And so Pinewood First Baptist, and they said, "You play guitar, right? You're Charlie's boy." I was like, "Well, you're our worship leader. You know, you're going to be we're going to start a youth group, and you're going." And I said, "Okay, cool."
Let's
So
go.
that's what I did until I was basically, and no line here, this is weird, but from that time 17 till I was about 26.
Wow.
That's what I did.
It must have been fun.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, music was obviously something different. It wasn't just talking to people. It's like, all right, we're going to all pay attention to this other thing together that's not a TV, you know?
Yeah.
That's a special thing, whether it's in a church or, you know, a bluegrass festival or whatever, a trap house. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's
Exactly.
it's something special in there. And so I loved it. And, but I didn't really start writing too much until, I was in my mid 20s. And
Really?
yeah. And it was really when my dad died. My dad died when I was 26 or 27. And
Wow.
that's kind of when I started all like saying, I want to write songs. I want to, do this thing. And it just sort of, it took off really when he died. It felt more like because he gave me his instruments. He had some old good instruments. And before he died, he had this, it was almost like a ceremony,
Wow.
And I remember he gave me his bass, which is a 62 Fender precision bass.
Whoa.
And he said, go get what you can out of them, but nothing's more important than family, is what he told me. When he gave me his bass. And that was only just a few weeks before he died. He had cancer.
Wow.
And so that made an impact on me, and I was already interested in writing because, I was like a poetry major in college and stuff. So I like to, sit down and like complain about things on a piece of paper.
Actually, that makes so much sense. I was like, where is that literary kind of like songwriting? Your songs are so well written, like lyrics. And that completely makes sense that you were like a poetry major, literary major, was it?
It was an English major, but it was a poetry
English major, kind of focus,
emphasis, yeah.
So when your dad gave you the bass, did he give you, and that became kind of like the beginning of like starting like with other people, or did you bring that into the youth group, or how did you start going from there?
No, by that time, I was in my mid 20s and I wasn't really doing a lot of that anymore. I kind of stopped doing that after college. When I graduated college, I sort of thought, I'm good in this world. You know what I mean? This world's a little weird. I'm fine. So I sort of cut ties with that. And then honestly, just is a cliche as it sounds, really started getting into Bob Dylan, just, the mid 60s, moving into the late 60s, kind of when he was still folky, moving into that, I kind of had this moment where I followed him from Times They Are Changing, onto Highway 61. And like, he just kept going and kept going. Yeah. And it was sort of like, I felt like I grew, with that, and to the point where I was like, well, I'm going to try it. I'm going to, I don't know, try to write something.
I mean, I hear tons of like that kind of lyrical style of Bob Dylan in your music too. Like that completely makes sense to me. When did you when did the first band come together, your first band?
Yeah, so that would have been around 2010. I just with some local guys here in Jackson. And one guy, G.R. Robinson, plays for a band called Water Liars. Are you familiar with Water Liars? So, but he still lives right down the road from me over there. But he was my first bass player. I had another guy who was a drummer in town that I met through kind of the church thing. None of these guys ever played country music ever.
No.
And then Cotton, who's been with me for a long time, he was with us too at the beginning. And he was more of a rock and roll blues guy. And none of us had played country music. None of us knew what we were doing. That's why, like, you listen to the early stuff, it's like, what is this? It sounds like, like Wilco with like brittle bone disease or something, And but it took us a while to figure out, how to do some stuff.
Yeah.
But that was kind of, we just wanted to try it. I mean, I was like, come on, guys. I made them wear like red suspenders and stuff. I'm like, we're gonna play country, and they're like, okay.
Well, that's awesome. What kind of styles were they playing before that? Like, just
Cotton had a blues rock band called Rockamole.
Those are the best band names ever, right?
Yeah. And then GR was like into a lot of really cool like underground, like Page 99, and like like all these like really cool like underground DC bands, like punk, hardcore stuff, and Cotton was in that stuff too, but he was more of a blues rock guy. And then Jesse's like a jazz guy.
That's actually the best when you're coming from all those styles and you kind of blend it together.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. I mean, your band is insanely tight. Is it as the same band that you've had since 2010? Is it same people?
No, we've gone through a lot of different little lineups and stuff, but now the main band that I work with, we've been together for 5 or 6 years, you know.
And who is that? Who's in the band?
So a lot of who I play with is Dom Billett and Jerry Bernhardt, which those guys have played with, you know, and still are playing with, like Courtney Marie Andrews, you know, Caitlin Rose.
They're coming this year, Courtney.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. I forgot you're sharing a band with some people.
We're sharing a band. Yeah, exactly. So Dom and Jerry have played with all kinds of people, and I've played bass in a lot of bands with them, with Aaron Ray and Caitlin Rose and Andrew Combs, and so we've played a lot together in different bands, and it's always fun when you can reconnect with people you've been with a lot, you know.
Oh yeah, so. Courtney Marie Andrews is just something else. So is Caitlin. They're both like they can sing the phone book, right? I don't care. Like, do it. Let's hear it.
It's
like
very true about both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and just songwriting, just great songwriting too.
100%, man.
Actually, with Caitlin Rose, you do. I mean, I'm sure we do a lot of film, a lot of media. So like we have like, let's say anti things we do is like, we're gonna stay small, and guess what? We're gonna like bend pop culture through doing media. And that was like an idea. We're like, we're just going to infect it, and we're going to throw it off kilter. It's going to come towards us somehow, because we're going to just kick out all this great. And we got so deep into it, all of the film. So we had like 300 to 500 people. Sometimes one year we've had as many as 800. And the whole set is like you don't know it, but it's just filming going on. And we have, we do YouTube. And so we're film lovers. And so we saw your fight song with Caitlin, right? And I want to know, okay, so I'm going to try to describe it. I'm not the film perfect, but you guys recorded this, a video in one take, 2x speed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're actually, you're doing it at 2x speed so that when you slow it down, it actually looks right, but it's in slow motion, right?
Yeah.
Is that a way to describe it?
If you've never done a video that way, you got to try it. Yeah,
it's awesome. Whose idea was this?
It's very weird. Well, Joshua Shoemaker, who's one of the. It's just amazing that he uses his talents to make so many music videos. A lot of the music videos you've seen that you like about, with certain, circles of music, probably made by him. I mean, he's amazing. And he's great. Just like, look, I know you guys are broke. Just give me this much. Show up. We'll do it in 3 hours. I got this idea. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's do it.
One take.
You don't know what's going to happen, but he's an impressive guy and couldn't be sweeter too. Yeah, this is Josh Shoemaker.
Yeah, and so in this video, Caitlin Rose is there, and you guys, it's a fight song. It's a brilliant, lyrics are great. I love it. It just ends perfect. Like, and what's hilarious is like I didn't really catch it. It was in slow motion until like you were past somebody on the street and you throw your keys, right? And that person later ends up stealing your car and you're chasing them, and it's all like just like it's hard luck right there. But the keys are in slow motion. Like that's the giveaway. Like that's the only thing that you really notice when you that's what. Because Ryan Stiles, my partner, is like a film major, and he leads all of that stuff, and he knew exactly what was going on. I was like, and we played that one. We played that video. I don't know. We play it all the time because it's just everyone that sees it, they just fall in love with it. It's a great song. So
see, if I had more editing money, I would have said, all right, when we throw the keys, let's go full time here, and then.
It's kind of great though because I didn't know it was double speed. Like until that moment, like I didn't know what was going on, why it was kind of cinematic, but it's a cool concept. Yeah. And this latest record right now, Listen to the Blood, is the third record, right? So in a series of records, correct?
Correct.
What's the thought there? What was the idea?
Well, I mean, again, going back to so many different ways you can do music, I think that music in some ways was a receptacle for me to do something personal and, something that's not terribly forthcoming, but it's the thing that sort of connects me to the project. It's not just get on stage and, hey, let's go play. There's a lot of ways, a lot of things that go on So I think I was working through an arc of 3 records. I mean, I don't plan on making any more Kernel records at this moment. That was the plan.
No, don't say it's not so. We need another record for sure.
Well, we'll see. But if you look at the artwork of the 3 records, you'll see the first one. I'm kind of like coming up, and in my mind, it's like I'm being born. Hey, here I am. It's like country music, And then the next one is I'm standing up, all the way, and so tall that you can't even see my eyeballs. So like I'm here, I made it, and now this last one is good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks. But that's just sort of the arc I had planned from the beginning, and so yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah, and what I would say is like when you're here now, and whether you kind of consider yourself like, do you consider yourself like anti-country or country? I think of you as country.
I've never used that term, anti-country, but I do like the idea that it, leaves room for a lot of different ways to go about doing this. I think it's healthy. I think it's good for people to see, well, why is he doing it like this? Why is the Kernel guy why is he playing this? Like people don't, Billy Strings sells out 90,000 people playing, why ain't trying to play bluegrass? It's like, I think it's good to do your own thing. And it's good for the ecology of music. I mean, we need people to be the underground. I always think of it as underground. And
that's another way to say it.
It's like the earthworms, kneading the ground under there and connecting everything. And, that's the part of music that keeps it going. And so it's tough because, maybe you're not selling as many tickets and buying a new fancy car or anything, but that's why you do it. So.
Yeah. And time, like if you can survive and kind of, I'm not joking. Like that's the trick, right? Like eventually, like you can build it up and it's like on your terms, like I kind of think you're doing music on your terms. And like, I kind of talked about our crazy world where we play it on TV, we're still faking it. Like I would just be honest, like, yeah, we're still, but people would look and say, hey, look, the Kernel, that's it. That's your music. And I mean, I would ask you the same thing that I was thinking about, like, would you change anything? Would you take anything back? Would you do it like more commercial the next time?
I don't know that I could. I mean, there's a certain talent to that I'm not sure that I have.
Hey, that's a good way to say it too. I don't know if I have it either. I don't know if I could have done that way. But hey, it's been a pleasure. We're super looking forward to having you at the festival. It's going to be so great.
Man, thank you so much. And I didn't get to say this at the front, but I'm so excited. This is obviously a festival that I've known about for many years and have always held it in very high regard. And everybody that I've known that's come back from it speaks to that same truth too. So I'm so excited to come.
Highest compliment. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's going to be a highlight. It's going to be great.
We're going to treat you well too. So let's have a good time, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
And with that, thank you guys, everyone. This is the end of episode 5, and we'll be back again next week with episode 6. See, I can count. That's a wrap.
This podcast is produced by Zale Schoenborn, Tanner McAuliffe, and Evan Throckmorton. Our artwork is by Travis Bone, and additional support by Ryan Stiles. The music in this episode was by our guest of honor, the Kernel. The songs included were Homicide, At the Old Taco Bell, and the song we're riding out on right now, You Do You. And remember, folks, that's Kernel spelled Kernal. A big thanks to the whole Pickathon family. And like Zale said, we'll catch you all next week.